The CTE problem in football. For years, football was seen as a relatively safe sport. Yes, you may break some bones, but injuries like that are expected. Of course, as a career football player, it could lead to long-term physical injury, like any sports career. Pushing your body to its limits all the time will, of course, degrade it. For concussions, though, they are seen as a safer injury to have during a game of football. In 2002, Mike Webster was posthumously diagnosed with CTE. In the following years, autopsies were done on Justin Suzek, Terry Long, Andre Waters, and Tom McHale. All of them had signs of CTE. Dr. Omalu said that Terry Long's brain looks more like that of a 90-year-old brain with advanced Alzheimer's. Because of these findings, and many more, the NFL paid out in 2013 as a part of a class action brain injury lawsuit. $675 million was given as compensation to the plaintiffs. $75 million was put towards medical testing. The last $10 million was set aside for brain injury research and education. CTE has a list of symptoms like headaches, dizziness, an unsteady gait, fatigue, and dysphagia. In addition, they have cognitive, psychological symptoms such as memory loss, attention deficit, difficulty in concentration, slow information processing, confusion, loss of judgment, irritability, emotional distress, and an inability to stay employed. In severe cases, the progressive slowing of movement, a propulsive gait, tremor, masked facies, deafness, dysphagia, ptosis, and other ocular abnormalities. Dysphagia is impairment in the production of speech resulting from brain disease or damage. A propulsive gait is an abnormality in your walking pattern from the brain or spinal cord. Ptosis is when the eyelid droops over the eye, and masked facies refers to the expressionless appearance of individuals with the disorder. CTE is troubling because routine radiographic imaging will not show signs of it. Some advanced MRI-based sequences like functional magnetic resonance imaging, magnetic resonance spectroscopy, and diffusion tensor imaging have a chance of being able to detect early radiographic findings of CTE. So, CTE is a side effect of playing football. That is known. But the issue with CTE isn't just that it happens, but that it is so prevalent in football players. A recent survey by NPR found that 1/3 of former NFL players believe they are living with CTE. This is not including all the players that have been posthumously diagnosed with CTE. Looking at the data from 34 previous studies of helmet accelerometers used in college, high school, and youth football, the researchers created a positional exposure matrix, or PEM. This was made off the speed, number, and direction of head impacts in a game. This helps estimate the average number of blows to the head and what types of blows to the head a player can be expected to sustain. This can predict a particular position and the level of play, including professional athletes in the NFL. These graphs help visualize some of the data in the study. The first histogram shows the amount of players in each category and their CTE status. The second histogram gives a representation of the CTE status at each year of play. Given the limited sample size, there is some variance in between years, but an overall trend can still be observed. Of 631 football players, 451 of them developed CTE. That dataset found that on average, every additional year played of football increased the odds of CTE by 15%. They also concluded that every 1,000 blows to the head, there was a 21% chance increase of CTE and 13% chance increase of developing severe CTE. So, with football being such an integral part of American culture and childhood, should kids still play tackle football? Well, undoubtedly, risk of brain injury is scary to parents. Organizations like the Concussion Legacy Foundation are pushing for children under 14 to play flag football instead of tackle football. Flag football is a version of football where players have to take flags off of each other's waists rather than tackling. This is supposed to force safer play with less injury. The Concussion Legacy Foundation lists studies finding the rates of CTE increase by as much as 30% each year. The difference made in those early years can be crucial for the long-term health of the child's brain. The legacy states, kids who start tackle football at age 5 rather than age 14 are 10 times more likely to develop CTE. This information is shown often with videos of children smoking at practice. The idea is to show parents how CTE and tackle football have as strong of a link as smoking and developing lung cancer does. The site also lists many NFL icons that didn't play tackle football until high school, like Tom Brady, Jerry Rice, Kim Brown, Lawrence Taylor, and Walter Payton. They also have a comprehensive list with the top 5 players of all time and 16 more Hall of Famers. If you, the viewer, are a parent and want to read up on this foundation to make a decision for your own child, I have left a link in the description. This foundation is putting in a lot of work to keep children safe, but there will always be an opposite side to the argument, so let's see what some of the counterpoints made by the other side are. Now, in the spirit of being fair, I would like to find some studies that back up the notion that tackle football is safe for kids. Unfortunately, there's not any studies like that, so an opinion piece is where I'll be getting the counter-arguments from. So, a football mom, Candy A. Westbrook, posted an opinion piece to the Gaston Gazette, starting off her Dear Reader section with, "There are no statistics to support what I'm about to say, but I'm saying it anyways." What if, let's say, the recent school shooters got their frustrations out by playing football instead of shooting and killing other innocent students? What if these children with behavioral issues live in the Xbox or iPhone video games? The actual rules of the game are how many people you can kill or shoot in a short amount of time and joined a team. What if instead of children harboring hate, they got their tails outside and ran off their emotional hurts through a sport? As someone who has worked as a teacher and talked to plenty of other teachers about their experiences, behavioral problems are rarely as simple as kid isn't active enough. Now yes, in the event of a problem, sports may be the answer, but if so, why tackle football? One that is dangerous and causes CTE. Beyond that idea, children with behavioral problems can be helped in many ways because the root is different for all. Some, it is a nature issue. They were born with different needs. Sometimes the issue is nurture, and the parent is not able to properly raise the child for whatever reason. Not to shame the parent, but sometimes there's mistakes, and the kid can't behave right for whatever reason. But to say tackle football is the answer is a very closed-minded answer. If a kid is having behavioral issues, the parent can try to put in the work to help them in whatever way needed. Or the school can step in and help the child in whatever way needed. But an answer like tackle football seems like a response from someone who thinks all the issues with children come from one place, and they're not individuals with different reasonings for being the way they are. This is not to say that excessive video game use or watching videos isn't harmful, but rather, the answer is not that simple. To the topic of school shootings, the issue is more complex than kids playing violent video games or watching violent media. The next point she makes is quoting Dr. Omalu, who I mentioned earlier as discovering CTE in football players. She said, "I have heard him quoted that, for a professional football player, there's 100% risk of CTE. Remember, not all football players will become professional NFLers. Besides, there is a risk to everything we do or don't do. Shoot fire. Life is a risk. No one is immune to hazards." She did use a quote to back up what she said, but she used a quote from when the first case of CTE was found in the NFL. That skips over all the years of research that happened after up until 2018 when this was written. Also, to say not all kids will become NFLers is a bad argument given what science has now shown us. Kids are very much at risk of developing CTE when playing at a young age. Also, saying life is a risk, no one is immune to hazards, isn't a point to play tackle football when it carries substantially more risk than flag football. So, it's obvious for children tackle football can be put off until a later date. But what about the professionals in the NFL? They can't just change up the entire game one season to flag football. That would be a fundamental change to the game. So, how will the NFL make games safer for the players? Well, since the link to CTE was found with football, the NFL has poured millions into research on CTE. The NFL has added many rules since CTE has become a known problem. Some of these rules are helmets cannot be used to initiate contact with another player, the chop block technique is illegal on all kicking players, a kicker/punter must not be unnecessarily contacted by receiving team through the end of a play. The ball is declared dead at the spot if a runner's helmet comes off completely. If you look at this graph of rules added since 2002, when the link between football and CTE was found, rules added have shot up. The rules added are specifically listed for the health and safety of the players. Since head collision in football is inevitable, even with all these extra rules, new equipment is being brought out. There's a guardian cap and cue collar, which are both supposed to make each head contact less damaging for the players. The cue collar applies slight pressure on the jugular veins of the neck, so that there is higher blood volume in the head, allowing for less sloshing of the brain with each hit. The reason why this works is because a concussion comes from the brain moving around inside a person's head, hitting the skull. The guardian cap absorbs at least 10% of the force hitting the head. The absorption allows less force to be transferred into the head, meaning the brain moves less and is less likely to hit the skull, sustaining damage. So, where does the NFL go from here? What should Americans do as a whole when it comes to playing football? For the parents in America, please don't have your child play tackle football until they are in high school. There's just no benefit from tackling at that age, only downsides. Then, lastly, for the NFL, they will continue with extra rules and gear for safety. Players, hopefully, are at least informed about the risks. The NFL is taking good steps towards safety by allowing the cue collar and guardian caps, but not enforcing the equipment is a weird stance. There is always room for improvement.